Great, and we're back. So I've gotten rid of the line just for now. In this video, we're going to explore how we can apply color to these shapes and stroke color and stroke weight. So if you happen to be a designer and you work with Adobe, these terms will not be foreign to you. The first is, how do we put in a fill color to these white shapes? You do that by writing on top of these shape commands, fill, open parentheses. Let's try 0 for now, which is black. And then close parentheses, and don't forget to end with a semicolon. And then we have all our shapes turning into black. So you'll notice that it applies to every shape that is drawn after this fill command. If you want one of them to not be black, so if, for example, you want one of them red, you would have to assign a new fill color on top of that shape. So for example, I want to make the triangle red. I would put right above the triangle a new fill color. So fill open parentheses. I'm gonna put in a quotation mark, and I'm just going to type in red. And close the quotation mark, close the parentheses, semicolon, and now I've got a red triangle. And so that's basically how fill colors are assigned to each shape. There are actually 5 different ways that you can assign color onto a command. The first is what you see with the background color and this fill color here. If you just put in one value, it's going to pull from the grayscale spectrum, 0 being black, the darkest, and white being the highest, which is 255. So anything in between would be different shades of gray, like this background color that you see here, which is 200. So of course, the higher the value, the closer it is to white. The lighter gray it will be. The lower the value, the closer to black, 50. And it would be a very dark gray. So I'm going to return that back. So put in one value is going to be between black and white. Second, you can also put in what I just did with the red color here, which is by putting in quotation marks inside your parentheses, and then the computer or p5.js can actually understand basic color words in English. Let's make the other guys blue. That can also work as well. Third way is you can also put in hex codes. So this is really handy if you've got like a specific color palette and stuff like that. I'm going to try it on the rectangle here, and I'm going to say fill. You're going to open parentheses, and you're going to put in quotation marks as well. And you're going to put in a hash symbol first. And I don't know any hex codes off the top of my head, but let's try 3C, 3C, 3C. There you go. I think that's a brown color. Okay, gray. And then there you have it. Another way that people commonly apply color is with RGB values. So you would fill in your RGB values into the parentheses. So in case you're not familiar with what RGB values are, so every color has what is called the red, green, blue value. So it's sort of like how printers work with like the magenta and the yellow. So if I wanted my background to be red, then of course, again, the lowest value of color being 0, the highest value being 255. So in this case, if I want to go full on red, I'm going to put 255 in the R value and 0 in the green and blue values. And that's going to give me a full red background. Same deal if I want it full green, and I'll just tone down all the other values. It's going to give me green. Any mixture of these is going to produce to you a different color. So I'm just winging it there. And in addition to this, you can actually also add opacity or transparency. I'm going to move my background to the setup. I just dropped my phone. I'm going to move my background to setup just to illustrate this. And if I put in a 4th value there, it's going to indicate the transparency. Again, 0 being least transparent, so it's going to be invisible, and 255 being highest transparency. If I tone it down to maybe 100, then it's going to lower in transparency. So those are sort of the 5 ways, I guess, that you can specify color. Other settings, style settings that you can apply to your shapes is the stroke color. So if I want a white stroke on all of these, I can do that. See how each of them have a white stroke. If that's too hard to see, I can also thicken the stroke weight, which is the thickness of the outline. So if I make it 5, and there you go. And again, if you want to just assign that to the circle, for example, and you want the triangle to not have a stroke at all, you can also add a command. Again, I'm going to write it above the triangle. So every property is written above the shape that you want to apply it to. And then I'm going to put in no stroke with just an open and close parentheses, and then it's going to have no stroke. Same deal. If you want a no fill, you can also do that. So I'm going to do that on the rectangle. No fill. Hopefully that gives a good rundown of every color properties and things that you can play with. All right, and so now that we've covered all of that, we have a speed exercise. And so each module is going to have a speed exercise, and the purpose of this is really to just practice what you've learned. And so our first one is to draw an animal. So use all of those sort of techniques and basic shapes and colors that you've learned throughout this module. Bad drawings only, so there's no pressure to keep it to make it polished. Try to give yourself 15 minutes. That should be enough time. And yeah, and you can then share your results. I'm going to move myself a little bit. And then you can share your results on our Discord server, so make sure to join that if you haven't already. This is an example of all of the animals that was drawn in our first ever batch of the Data Garden course. And so as you can see, we're keeping it super lo-fi. And yeah, can't wait to see what you guys make with the basic p5.js shapes. And yeah, be sure to join our Discord. You can follow us on Instagram if you haven't. Thanks so much for following through, and I'll see you in the next video.